All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Money Talks. I'm your host, Bill Barhydt. I'm the founder and CEO at Abra. I think we've got a few things to talk about today. So let's get right to it. Yeah, I want to talk to you obviously about what everybody wants to talk about, which is, of course, the price of crypto and what's going on there. So we'll dig into that. Um, Everybody wants to talk about Elon and his effect on Bitcoin and the broader markets and Doge, of course, and we'll get into that. We'll talk about all this FUD about energy. A lot of regulatory announcements this week, and I think it's important to, even for the non-US based users of Abra, to understand what's going on in the US from a regulatory perspective because the US tends to lead the way when it comes to these regulatory issues. Okay, so we'll get into all of that. I've got a lot of things I want to talk about, and excuse me. Yeah, we'll get into all of it. We're going to do an AMA. I see lots of comments and questions um, on the YouTube channel already. We'll get to those. I promise. Keep the questions coming. I've got my trusty app here to do some demos if there's any questions. Um, yeah, so let's get into it. So the first thing I want to talk about is just, where are we really? What happened in the last week? Okay, so you're going to hear me use this term liquidation. All right. What do I mean when I say liquidation? So this is not meant to be a technical analysis show, but to understand the basics of what's happened in this past week, there are a few things that I think would be helpful to understand so that we can also then zoom out and get back to the big picture of what's really going on. Okay. So in the Bitcoin markets, most of you using Abra, you buy some crypto, you hold it, you sell it. And some of you are holding for a very long time, like myself, with no intentions of selling anytime soon. And some of you are trading in and out every few weeks, or every few months, or even every couple of years. And that's fine. Everybody can do and use Abra the way they want. That's what it's meant for. But outside of the Abra world, there are some hardcore traders who do things a little bit differently. And these traders basically take advantage of what we call leverage. Leverage, the simplest form of leverage that most of you are familiar with would be the mortgage on your home. You basically use your home as a collateral, if you will, to get a loan to finance the home itself, right? And if you can't pay your mortgage, the bank will sell the home. The problem with that is, well, the only problem is that if the value of the home falls below the value of the loan, you still have to pay back the loan. Okay, so that's the risk when you take out this type of leverage. So in the Bitcoin world, there are services outside the US that will enable you to use the Bitcoin itself that you're holding as a means to effectively borrow, right, dollars to buy more Bitcoin, right? And then you can keep leveraging yourself over and over again. So the upside of that is if the price of Bitcoin keeps going up, you're actually going to magnify the amount of money you're making because you're holding more Bitcoin, even though you didn't spend more money. The problem is if the price of Bitcoin falls, the person you've borrowed the money from will actually, in some cases, sell some of your original collateral to pay for the loan that you can no longer afford to pay. And the faster the price of Bitcoin falls, the more this unwinding happens. And that's exactly what happened this past week. Bitcoin got, and we'll look at some charts in a second, but let me just explain it in as simple terms as I can. Bitcoin got to a point where it was oversold and over levered. And that's what I mean when I talk about this leverage, that lots of people, lots of traders were using their Bitcoin to borrow more money to buy more Bitcoin. Then they were using that Bitcoin to borrow more money and buy more Bitcoin, and over again, to the point where some people are over leveraging themselves by a factor of 20, which means that a 5% drop in the price of Bitcoin can wipe out your entire holdings. This is not a good idea, okay? This is unhealthy speculation. It's not going to stop no matter what I say or anyone else says, and all these sites like BitMEX and enable kind of this irresponsible, over-levered gambling in Bitcoin. And that's not what Bitcoin is about. Bitcoin is not about getting rich quick, right? It's about not getting poor very slowly over time as the dollar goes to shit, and and all currencies for that matter, right? And so if you're in this to make a quick buck, you run this risk of what happened this week, which is you over leverage yourself. You start to get what we call cascading liquidations. What's a cascading liquidation? So if the price falls a little bit because somebody tweets about energy usage, or China's saying this or China's saying that, or the US IRS says pay your taxes, all of a sudden people get spooked. The price falls a little bit, but that may cause some of these over levered positions to liquidate. Well, that actually causes the price to fall some more, and then some more, and then some more. And then you get in the situation like we had this past week, where you get basically a rundown in price and a major pullback, which is what we saw. And so this over liquidation, or these liquidations, are actually very healthy, because what happens is it unwinds all of this leverage in the system and takes us from effectively weak hands to strong hands in terms of who the owners are in Bitcoin. And I don't think we're done quite yet. As a matter of fact, this morning we're seeing a slightly other pullback. The good news is, from a big picture perspective, right? I mean, Bitcoin is way up, right? It's up like I think 300% in the last year, and so that's fantastic. Which tells me two things: one, we're still in a bull market, right? And at the same time, we have an unwinding of all this leverage, and that's healthy. That's like the rubber band winding up, and I'll show you some pictures of where I think we are from a macro perspective in a second. So let me go to my chart here. Sorry for that. You're looking at me twice. Okay, so this is the last like 3 days of Bitcoin, right? You can see we're now in a bit of a sideways pattern since Wednesday. We're at the bottom. We're in the middle of this trough that we were in. And so we're still kind of consolidating, finding our way. I think we could go sideways here for a while. And sideways could mean anywhere from like 30, honestly, like 30 to 50. I mean, it's a huge range, right? And when you're experiencing exponential growth, that range from 30 to 50, it may sound crazy, but it's not a huge deal, okay? Remember, this is a new asset class. This isn't like a stock market or other types of assets. So that's the sideways action that I think we're going to see for a while. So let's just zoom out. Let me go to the 4-hour candles here. So you can obviously see that it's this here has been a bit of an ugly week, right? So this downward slope that you see here. But if I zoom out even further, if I go to the daily chart, you can see, right? So, okay, so there we are. Now you can see that we were basically going sideways more or less since early February. It looked like we had a nice run up, but basically after the initial run up in January here, right? This is the run up from basically, let's call it, the first week of January all the way up to mid-February. We were basically in a super bull run. Now, if I go over here to the right, we've been more or less consolidating sideways, and we broke down from that consolidation pattern a couple of days ago, or basically last weekend. But effectively, the bull market, as I said, is still very much intact. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, first of all, for me personally, it's nice to have an understanding of what's happening from let me turn off this chart for a second. So it's nice to have an understanding of what's happening from a macro perspective, meaning the big picture, because it may give you some more comfort. But the big picture for me personally hasn't changed, and it's very unlikely to change. And that is, Bitcoin is likely to become, over the next several years, the hardest money, the best store of value that the world has ever seen. But Bill, the price of Bitcoin just fell 40+% from its peak. How could Bitcoin be the best store of value? I didn't say that it's the best store of value yet. We're on the way to that happening. It's a new asset class. Okay. We are on the front lines as the early hodlers of Bitcoin for this new asset class. And The ride to get there is going to be bumpy, it's going to be volatile. And for some of you who may have a higher percentage of your net worth in Bitcoin, it's maybe harrowing. And if it's too harrowing, take some money off the table, please. It's not worth the stress. Um, but if you're like me and you fundamentally have conviction for the fact that over the next 5 to 10 years, this new asset class is effectively going to take over the narrative on what it means to have a hardened monetary system. And I fundamentally believe that. And so that changes nothing in terms of my conviction. No 15, 20, 40% pullback is going to change my conviction for that. If there's some catastrophic failure of the software, some bug that wasn't found over the first 11 years of the software's existence, some mathematical proof that says this isn't going to work, then my conviction might change. But that's not where I'm at right now. Okay. So, um, yeah, we'll see how things play out. Um, and I'm sure you all have a lot of questions about what I'm saying, but effectively, yes, we're still in a bull market. In my opinion, I don't see anything um, that will change that. But be smart with your money. If you're not sure, if you find yourself looking at price charts every day, you need to figure out how to take a step back. Okay. And again, if you're not prepared to lose money in the short term, you probably shouldn't have that money in Bitcoin. And when I say lose money, long term, we're all going to be fine. But in the short term, you're going to see these pullbacks on the way. Now, I'm not here to give investment advice. That having been said, I do think we're going to 100,000, probably later this summer. That's my, mystical reading of the tea leaves that I'm showing you, right? But again, I'm not here to give you investment advice. Say, here, invest your money here. You're going to make money here. I don't do that. Okay. I can give you my opinion. I can show you how to do it with Abra. Um, and if you ask me questions, I'll answer the best I can. But my personal reading of what's going on says we're in a major bull market still. We've had these pullbacks before, even like this, and I'm going to show you in a second. I think we're going to 100,000 plus later this summer. I wouldn't be surprised if we're in the 200,000s by the end of the year. Now, it's possible that I'm 100% wrong, right? And I'm still going to survive if I'm 100% wrong, right? Because I don't have all my eggs in one basket, but I am very long crypto. So obviously my conviction for where this is going has led to my putting my money where my mouth is, but that's for me. Okay? So do what's right for you. And please and keep the questions coming, and then we'll dig in together to see what this all means. All right. Okay, so let me show you a couple of things. This is one of the favorite charts that I've shown you many, many times. You know, so many 40-ish% pullbacks during the last bull run in 2017. Okay. Every time we have one of these pullbacks, the sky is falling. My text messages blow up, my Twitter feeds and Facebook feeds, Bill's full of shit. And it's not like I'm the personal purveyor of whether Bitcoin goes up or down. All I'm doing is showing you what's happened in the past, because the definition of history is that it's in the past and we can learn from it, right? And history leaves clues, success leaves clues, failure leaves clues. Okay. I would say, if from an investment perspective, this run up, if you're long, is very successful. But it's harrowing when you have one, two, three, four, five, six, 40% pullbacks during that same time frame. And that's exactly what's happening right now. Okay, let's go out even further. Let's zoom out even more. Let's go back to the 2012. So remember, we have these halvenings, which is when the new supply of Bitcoin gets reduced every few years. And by the way, we're focusing on Bitcoin now. We're going to come to some other coins in a minute. This is from Raul Pal and our friends at GMI. The Bitcoin price in blue, sorry if it's thin on the YouTube channel or the Facebook feed if you can't see it, but there's a blue line here which shows the price run from the 2012 to 2013 bull run, I believe, overlaid with the current price. Okay, and you can see right? That based upon this, we're right on track, right on track. Now let's zoom out again and look at the current price versus the 16 to 17 bull run that I showed you earlier with those seven or six or seven 38% or 40% pullbacks. All of a sudden, when you look at this, those 40% pullbacks don't seem so harrowing, right? When you're looking at it from a macro big picture perspective. And this chart, if it holds, right, says if I apply the last run up in 2017 to this run up, given where we are now, right, it's crazy how similar this stuff is. But this says, hey, if this holds, we're going to probably 350,000. Now, I'm not saying we're going to 350,000 before this run is over. I'm just saying that if you look at these historical run-ups, the two I just showed you, they predict something between 200,000 and 400,000 for this run up in terms of US dollar price for Bitcoin. And this pullback, it's harrowing. I don't like it. But on the other hand, getting rid of that over leverage in the system is actually really healthy in a bull run. It's like I've used this analogy before. It's like a spring coil or a rubber band being wound up again so we can rocket back to the moon even higher than we were before. Uh, so hopefully those charts help put some things in context. So before we get to the first part of the AMA, the other thing that I wanted to talk to you about is this kind of regulatory overhang. I get a lot of smart questions right now about what's happening from a regulatory perspective, particularly in the United States, secondarily in China. Excuse me. Um, I'm not an expert on China. Um, I do try to maintain a modicum of expertise in crypto globally because we operate in over 100 countries and it's very hard to keep up. Okay, so and the reason I think that it's important to spend some time on this is that I want you to understand that when it comes to decentralized cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, Ethereum in particular, and probably some others that will get there soon, a global governmental ban, a conspiracy to ban, is simply untenable, meaning it's not going to happen. I'm going to go out on a limb and say there is simply no way for the governments at large to ban Bitcoin and Ethereum. And they all know this. Okay. Now, the simplest example I like to give is BitTorrent. Those of you who have ever used BitTorrent, it's a mostly used for sharing music files, movie files, other large files on the internet. It has no central server, so you're actually helping each other to share these files. Now, a lot of people use it to share copyrighted material, which I don't condone. I think that's really bad because artists should get paid, but they're still doing it. But it has no off switch because there's no central server. So all the governments that say, hey, sharing copyrighted material is illegal have not been able to shut off BitTorrent because it has no off switch. So you can't ban it. You can just say, hey, sharing copyrighted material is illegal. So after all these years, it's still running full steam ahead. It's got a lot of great uses, by the way, people sharing large files that have nothing to do with copyright law. Um, but the bottom line is you can't shut it off. Bitcoin is effectively the same thing. It's got no central server and it has no off switch. How can you ban something that has no off switch? Okay, so now that having been said, governments are talking about this, and let me give you some quick and dirties about what they're saying. All right, before we get into the first part of the AMA. So let's just roughly call this a regulatory crackdown, but it's not really a crackdown in the sense that everybody's doing something illegal. It's more of a series of reminders about what the current laws are. This is not a Bitcoin ban, okay? Most of the reminders are, hey, pay your taxes. If you're running a Bitcoin service like Abra, comply with the laws. And part of the laws is knowing who our customers are, such as checking IDs, which we'll come to in a moment. Okay. And so if you do this, we support the innovation. The best summary I've read of what's going on is from my good friend Caitlin Long, who runs Avanti Financial, a new crypto bank based in Wyoming. And Caitlin is an expert. There's a few people that I love to follow on Twitter because they give so much great information and they give back to the community. Caitlin on regulatory matters, Raul Paul on kind of macro investing, Willie Wu on what's happening on the Bitcoin blockchain to understand the macro picture. And so Caitlin did a really phenomenal summary of what's going on, and I invite you to go to her Twitter feed to check it out. But let me give you the highlights and my take on it. First, the Fed released payment system access guidelines. This is way beyond the scope of this discussion. This is super bullish long term because it says that non-banks can actually access the Fed for the first time. Again, beyond the scope of this, but super bullish long term for fintech in general. SEC issued warnings about Bitcoin futures. This shocked me because the SEC actually has no jurisdiction over Bitcoin itself. Bitcoin is a commodity. The SEC is a securities regulatory body. And so I'm very confused by that. The SEC would approve a Bitcoin ETF because that's the securitization of Bitcoin. That's a different issue. That's not what they're talking about here. So there was an IRS story on Binance where they're being investigated for their kind of historical support of US consumers before they spun out the Binance US organization. There's IRS coverage in the Wall Street Journal warning people to pay taxes. Let me address that one, okay? The IRS, the Treasury Department in the US, they have not changed the rules on what it means to hold Bitcoin or to make money in Bitcoin. It's property from the US's perspective. And if you make money when you sell it, you have to pay your taxes. It's been the rule for years. Pay your taxes. Okay. So if you want to reap the gains of Bitcoin without paying taxes, you can use the Abra borrow function. The Abra borrow function. Simply go into the Abra app and you press the borrow button, and you can borrow Bitcoin, borrow dollars against your Bitcoin holdings. It's as simple as that. So let me actually, sorry, let me show you. Oop, I'm messing with this live, and I apologize for that. So so we go over here to Abra, and we press the borrow button. Right, you can basically take out a dollar loan against your Bitcoin, easy peasy, right? So there's a couple of ways to deal with this issue. One, please follow the law, pay your taxes, right? And two, if you would rather just keep holding and never sell, and maybe because you're concerned about short-term taxes, you can borrow against your Bitcoin now. And Abra and other companies, we're not the only company doing this, make it super easy. Okay, so that's part two. I'll get off my soapbox in a second. Thanks for your patience. Um, the other issue that came up was the OCC. The OCC is actually going to make it, well, certain regulators and also certain Congress people have asked the OCC to unwind some of the things that they've done to make it easier for companies to get bank charters in the US or fintech charters in the US. That doesn't affect Abra, but and it really doesn't affect you per se. All it basically is doing is saying, hey, we're watching the space, we're paying attention to the space, and we want people to pay their taxes. It's not that complicated. Now, China's another issue, right? China sends very confusing messages, right? Hong Kong, with their kind of new proposed regulatory model, very confusing messages. To the average consumer, it's confusing. When you dig in, a lot of it is just nothing. And Bitcoin is not going anywhere. People will continue to be able to buy and sell Bitcoin. Abras can continue to support those markets, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. So look, we're still in this kind of sideways model that I talked about. I'm still bullish long term. Let me talk about Ethereum for a moment. Ethereum is basically, it was leading for a while. It looks like it's kind of following Bitcoin right now. It peaked at about 4,300 and change, and it's now, major pullback down to 2,400, but its stance is still super bullish. I've personally, again, not my investment advice, I've said I think that Ethereum is going, see if I can bring up an Ethereum chart here in Abra. I still think that Ethereum could easily be going to 10,000. this year, right? And I see no reason to change that stance. If you look here on this is a yearly chart, a little small on the phone, but you can see that we're in a bit of a pullback on a major bull run. But the trend from January, right, where let's see, in January we were at 775, and now we're at 2,500, right? So over 3x, which is over 200% this year. And I think it's got more to go. But that's me personally, right? And so I do have an allocation to. I don't change them. I let them go, and that's my kind of long-term Bitcoin investment. And then the other piece to Abra now, many of you are talking about this, is we have a lot of people that use Abra to buy and hold and put money into interest earning accounts, making money there. And then a lot of you are doing kind of a little bit of day trading, having some fun with things like Doge and some other altcoins. So look, what I'll say there, and as I do it myself, right? So I've bought and sold Doge with Abra, and I do it for fun. Okay, I'm not buying and selling Doge to put my kids through college. And I would implore you, while I don't give investment advice, to not do that. Okay, it's not going to end well. If you want to take a small amount of your kind of, let's call it play money, if you have some, and play with altcoins and learn about how they work as a result, especially if you're taking the time to learn about what's different about them. Like, you all know I'm a big fan of Digibyte. I'm a big fan of Cardano, and I've had some of those positions for longer term. Uh, and I've also bought and sold other currencies just to give myself the ability to focus on them for a couple of days, but very small amounts, like a couple $100s or something like that. So if you do that and you're having fun with it and you want to ride the Doge wave for a few days with small amounts of money, I have no problem with that. And I'm not going to tell you what to do, even if you see it differently. All I'm saying is please, I would discourage you from taking your life savings and putting it into Doge. It's just not smart. Okay. Um, be smart with it. If you want to have a little fun with the altcoins, go right ahead. We enable that. Okay. Just don't do it with 90% of your income, right? Getting in and out every couple of days or every couple of weeks is fun. It's fine. I do it. It's all good. All right. So I've been looking at the stock market this morning. I'm going to come back to that. I want to take some questions right now. One of the things I want to talk about is KYC. What is KYC? I talked about this earlier in regards to regulation, right? So as a regulated entity, right? Abra is regulated in several countries. Um, the government requires us to basically go through what we call KYC compliance. And now KYC stands for Know Your Customer. Okay, it's a banks like their three-letter acronyms like every other industry, and KYC is a bank term for Know Your Customer. In simple terms, it means I need to know within reasonable doubt who our users are, where you are, and what your source of funds is. Now, whether we all agree with that doesn't matter. That's the law. So if we want to operate these services, right, for now, we have to comply with the law. We can petition just like any other citizen to have laws changed and modified, but for now, we're going to comply with the law because that's what we do. All right. So as a result, many of you have seen requests for updated what we call KYC information. Maybe you've had to upload an ID. Maybe you've had to hold up the phone and do a selfie. And I think like 100,000 of you have done it in the past few days in Abra as we've been going through a major update. And I think like 90% of you have completed this with no problem. And some of you have had issues. And if you are having an issue with the KYC function, meaning your selfie didn't work, you took a picture of your ID and it didn't work, just try again. I think you get 3 tries and then you have to go to support and they'll fix you to try it again. But send an email to support@abra.com. I'll type it in the chat. That is the place you go to send your support emails, and they will get you some help. Okay, so let me take some questions here. Now we do have Abra staff in the chat function. If you have very specific support questions regarding your wallet, I cannot answer those questions here, both for legal reasons and also I don't have access to your details. That's what the support team does. So please send that email. If you have generic questions about using Abra, what I'm talking about, some of my talking points from earlier, I'd be happy to take those. So I'm going to work my way from the bottom up a little bit. And if you've completed the KYC and you still can't buy Bitcoin, please send an email to support@abra.com. If you want to use Abra to buy Bitcoin, let me just show you. Somebody was saying that they're not sure how to do that. So let me go back into my Abra app here. I'm going to increase the size of my screen for a second so you can see my trusty Abra screen. So this is my home screen in Abra. At the top, you see add money, exchange, withdraw. So if I press that add money button at the top, if I'm in the US, I can either ACH money from my bank. And if you've ever used Venmo or PayPal, it's very similar. You just connect your bank account with login and password, and you can pull in the money. I think the limit is like $10,000 a day. If you're doing more than that or plan to do more than that, I would encourage you to use the bank wire function instead. The bank wire function works globally. Now, each of you get your own bank wire instructions. So if I show you something here, don't copy my instructions because you'll be sending me the money instead of yourself. So you go to the bank wire screen and you can wire yourself the money into the wallets, and it'll show up as True USD, which is one of our stable coins in the Abra app. And at that point, you can convert it to Bitcoin, Ethereum, hold it. You can put it in the interest earning account. So you can deposit your cash into Abra and not even buy crypto and just earn 10.5% interest on it. That's the rate that we're paying today. So here's my demo app. Where's my balance? So you can see on the right-hand side of the screen that we're paying 10.5% interest, right? Super cool. It's by far the highest rate even in the crypto space. So for this type of app. And the other question I get, by the way, is how is Abra different from DeFi services when it comes to earning this interest? A little bit of field from the KYC. Let me answer that now because I saw that question before as well. So Abra is not a DeFi service, right? We are lending the deposits that you make with our partner Prime Trust in order to generate that yield for you, right, as interest. And we do that through very safe collateralized loans. And we do a small amount of DeFi investing in the background, but it's very small relative to the overall deposits we have. And we test it for weeks at a time in very small amounts, including our own money, before we actually use even your money. So I have all of my liquid cash and crypto in that Abra Earn account, right? So I would encourage you to check that out as well. Okay, so Jim asks, will we be able to pay bills on Abra anytime soon? Jim, that's my favorite. That's undoubtedly my favorite question today, and you can imagine why. And one of my goals eventually is to be able to shut off all my bank accounts and live through Abra financially. And I can't do that yet because I can't pay my bills. So I'm not going to give everything away, but you can kind of for yourself figure out where that's going. Where is Abra borrowing available? Ryan, good question. Abra Borrow is available globally, minus a few countries and minus a few US states. So it's not available in the UK and Canada yet. It's not available in about, I think, 9 US states. The biggest ones where we're not live yet are California and New York, but they're both coming. We're working on the licensing for those lending requirements. And I think 41 US states are live, Philippines is live, most of Southeast Asia is live, most of South America, Latin America, Central America is live, most of Europe is live, et cetera, et cetera. So go into the app. If you press the borrow function, it will tell you if it's not available in your jurisdiction. If you think that you've registered and your jurisdiction should be supported, then you can always send an email to support@abra.com and clarify, because sometimes you might be traveling. Like, let's say you're in New York and you register for Abra. The app thinks that you're based in New York, right? And it might stop you from using that function, but maybe you're actually from Texas and or from Illinois, where you can use the Abra Borrow, and you were traveling. And so we can help you fix that. That happens every once in a while as well. Let me take some more questions here. Keep them coming. Yeah, when will Abra Borrow be available in California? James, I'm based in California, so I want that myself. It's something we're working on. It's a top priority for us. Obviously, huge states. We have a huge, very big user base in California. I want to be able to use the Abra borrow function myself, so I can assure you that's something that we're working on. So Mario asked about the future for Abra. Mario, I'm going to come back to that one because that could take like 20 minutes of time. So let me come back to that question. I love that question. Um, why does the camera go black when taking a selfie? Actually, Jim, I have no idea. But if you can't get the selfie to work, send an email to support@abra.com, include your wallet ID and your OS type, and the team will look into it for you. Let's see what else. Thank you. Charlton says, thank you for bringing this to light. Charlton, you're very, very welcome. How do we recover funds from a restricted wallet? So Sergius, it depends upon why and how you were restricted. In some cases, it's because somehow maybe you registered from another state and you moved to New York, for example. Send an email to support@abra.com with your wallet ID, and they should be able to enable you to at least do crypto withdrawals to get the money out of your out of your wallet. But I believe starting on March 25th, if you have, I'm sorry, starting on May 25th, if you have balances above like $2,000, you will have to go through the full KYC even in order to withdraw. So make sure you get that done. Will Abra ultimately, this is from Mark, will Abra ultimately offer a Visa or MasterCard? Well, as I said, Mark, one of my top priorities is being able to pay my bills. And I want to be able to shut off my bank accounts to do that. And I can't do that yet with Abra. And, so you can imagine that it's a big priority for me. So I can't say anything more yet, but stay tuned. You never know what's happening. So, yeah, so again, if you've gone through KYC and you can't buy, or the demo I just showed you doesn't make sense, send an email to support. They're there to help you. We have a fantastic support team. I will tell you that the support team has been overwhelmed. Our user base has been exploding the last few months, and they've done a fantastic job keeping up. We've done a tremendous amount of hiring. We're hiring a lot of people in support right now to keep up with all the great questions that you send us. So have a little bit of patience. We will get to all the questions, but it is a little bit delayed right now versus normal. Again, as a reminder, you do have to, before May 25th, you must finish the KYC process. If you don't, you may have to you'll still be able to do it. You just may not be able to use the Abra app until you do it, right? So for now, you can use the Abra app, okay? Look, if you're not getting what you need, please go through support first, okay? I make my DMs open on Twitter. I don't mind people contacting me. I spend, several hours a week answering questions. I really enjoy it to a degree. But don't contact me first with a support issue. Contact support first. And if for whatever reason you're still confused, or it's an emergency, you're not getting a response, it's okay to contact me, but please use the appropriate channels first, okay? Hopefully that makes sense. And as Alan said, yes, please don't use your life savings for trading in crypto. If you can't lose it, don't use it, all right? So I just made that up, so that was pretty bad, I'm sorry. Yeah, so look, there's some people complaining about Abra competitors. I think the team at Abra has done a fantastic job of making this onboarding super easy. Like I said, we've updated the KYC for close to 100,000 people in the last few days. And the last stats I saw were that 90% of the people breezed through the process with no problem. I apologize if you're one of the 10% that did not, but I assure you we're able to fix it in the vast majority of the cases. Just send an email to support@abra.com. If you try 3 times and it doesn't work, you won't be able to try again. So you'll have to send an email to support and explain the wallet ID, what happened, and they will be able to either fix it for you and turn it on again. Ashish asks if the synthetic assets within Abra are securities or commodities. Ashish, there are no synthetic assets within the Abra system. Everything is native. It's native crypto. Everything is native in the system. So the question is a non sequitur. Yes. Other question. delays in moving crypto around. So let me address this issue head on. All right. So what happens when the price of Ethereum goes through the roof? Because all stable coins that we support are basically based on Ethereum. All right. And when Ethereum goes through the roof, what happens is, sorry, let me turn my phone back on. Um, the price for gas, which is the Ethereum fee for publishing a transaction, also goes through the roof. So there's been days when it could easily cost like $100 to move money around. So at that point, it's prohibitive to move like even a couple of $100 in and out of Abra via stablecoin. You're probably only going to want to do it to the tune of thousands of dollars, or you might publish with a very small gas fee and then take the risk that you might have to wait for hours or days for Abra, the Abra app, to get that stablecoin deposited. So please be aware of that. That's not an Abra problem. That's a global crypto problem, right? So the gas fees are really high still. Now, the scaling plan for Ethereum, in my opinion, is working, and it should address that problem over time. It's part of why I'm very bullish on Ethereum, right? Think about it. Ethereum is being used right now for almost all NFTs. We've talked about the NFT craze before, right? Almost every single NFT right now. Yeah, there's the Kings of Leon one. Thanks, guys. That I talked about earlier, um, are all being used mostly in Ethereum, like over 50%. Almost all stablecoin usage, not all, but like a big percentage. Even Tether, which used to have its own blockchain, is now also a large part an ERC20 token, all Ethereum based. Almost all DeFi is still Ethereum based, and all running at the same time. So any of you who think that Ethereum is not working, it's crazy. It's insane what's going on in Ethereum. They have the biggest developer support, probably the fastest growing, largest developer platform in the world right now. It includes Microsoft and other companies. As if you were to look at Ethereum as a company, you'd have to, which you can't because there is no company, but you'd be like, wow, they're killing it, right? The amount of gas fees being generated, the usage, the developer support, the apps around NFT, stablecoins, and DeFi, it's just awesome. So I've never been as bullish as I am now. The current pullback aside, I think it's fantastic. So just checking out where we are with Bitcoin, we're at 37.2. So yeah, so we're still in a bit of a pullback. Let's check out where we are with Ethereum, since I was just talking about it, and then I'll take a few more questions. You guys have the best questions, so it's always like the highlight of my month is when I get to do this. By the way, highlight of my month. So that reminds me. So a couple of things. We're going to try to get back to a weekly cadence for Money Talks. I was shocked. I was really shocked at how many people reached out to me directly and said, "Why have you stopped doing Money Talks?" I actually didn't know. I didn't. I mean, obviously, I see the views. We get a tremendous number of views across Facebook and Twitter feed, Periscope, and obviously YouTube, and even Twitch and other places. But I didn't realize how many people would miss it. So I'm going to try to get back with my team to a weekly cadence for Money Talks. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel and follow us on Twitter, follow us on Facebook. We have an Abra channel on Facebook. We have Abra Global on Twitter. I'm Bill Barhydt on Twitter. That helps us understand, especially when we get them in bunches on it's Friday morning in California. It means to us that people are watching, and that says a lot. So please press that subscribe button. It also helps push YouTube to promote the show. All right. We are going to try to get back to a weekly cadence, and it's really based upon your feedback. Like I said, I was pleasantly shocked at the number of people who have been asking for us to bring back Money Talks. Okay, so super cool. Let me see the more questions here. Oh yeah, so we've got some people here from. Will I be listing TRC20 based tokens? Probably not in the short term. It's something that we've looked at in the past. Will Abra be enabling 2FA for extra security? Yes, we will be adding a 2FA option. Now think about this for a second. Abra is a little bit different than most apps. There's a key on your phone that's not your crypto is not stored on the phone. It's actually stored with our custody partners. there's a key on your phone that locks your wallet. The PIN code that you enter into the phone unlocks the wallet using that key. And then the PIN code or Face ID that you use on the phone actually provides a second factor of authentication or a second layer of authentication. So adding the 2FA that you're talking about actually in this case adds a third layer, which is pretty cool. So we are going to add that. Abra is already incredibly secure. That's why I trust it for myself. But we're actually going to even in the future add this third layer, and we'll get there. I don't have a specific date for it yet, but it's something that we're looking at. Can Abra have candlestick chart options? Good question, Christian. Christian, we've talked a lot about that. The reason we don't have it yet is that honestly, a lot of our users, are not really day traders. You're investors. You do come in and out either daily or weekly or monthly, but you're not trading all day long, and you want a simple price chart. So one of the questions we've had is why can't why maybe we can enable both advanced and simple charting in a very easy experience. So we haven't figured out yet how to make it that easy for those people who just want the simple version, but it's something that I personally would love to do if we can figure out how to maintain our ease of use. Okay. Um, so somebody asked why interest deposits don't work in Africa. Joe, Abra does work in most of Africa. I think that there's a couple of countries like Ghana that we don't currently support. I apologize for that. It's not our choice. But we hope to have every country turned on. And we obviously follow the law, and there are OFAC sanctioned countries. OFAC is the list of countries that the US is not allowed to do business in. I actually hope that list goes away. I really do, because I think it brings all of us together as a people. And capitalism, I think, is the best way to bring people together. But while the US government maintains that list, we follow the law, and we're happy to follow the law. And that's just the way it is. So, when can we buy ADA, which is Cardano? You can buy that now. So let me go back, make sure that it's on the screen here. If you can see here, I have my Abra screen. If I press the exchange button, I have Bitcoin in my wallet, so I can convert that Bitcoin to Cardano right here, ADA, press ADA, and voila, I can buy Cardano. So if maybe you just didn't see it in the list, but they're alphabetized by the name of the currency, not the ticker symbol. So you have to search under C for Cardano. I hope that helps. Are we going to add digibytes for interest earning? The challenge there is, I forgot who asked the question. I just had it in my mind to answer. Is that we can't earn interest ourselves on Digibyte because there isn't large demand yet to borrow it. If that changes, we would be happy to add it. Okay, and we are looking at staking. A few of you have asked, and the problem with staking is that it's sometimes the funds get locked up. It's not as liquid, and so we think that the model that we're using right now is fine, and so for generating the interest. But we are looking at staking, and we're looking at lots of other ways to generate yield in the future. Let's see, other question. Why can't we use Bitcoin ATMs to send to Abra? I think you can. So when you go to the add money function in the home screen here, you see how it says deposit cryptocurrency, right? You just choose, you see my list, I'm going to choose Bitcoin. Now, don't take a picture of my screen because you'll be sending me the Bitcoin. If you really want to send me Bitcoin, that's fine. But you can copy and paste this address into the Bitcoin ATM, and it should send the Bitcoin to your Abra wallet. And you can also do the reverse. You can actually withdraw to a Bitcoin ATM if you want to cash out that way, if they support cash out. Most of them only support cash in. Let's see. Again, if you're having a problem with the KYC taking a picture, 90%, 90+% of our users have had no problem. If you are having a problem, send an email to support. Tell us what type of phone you're using. If it's an Android phone, usually it's Android because there's lots of different phones. iOS, because there's a small number of phones, it's much easier. And we'll see what we can do to help you out. Let's see. I have been having trouble exchanging 0x to another coin. Let's see. Yeah. So again, it is working unless there's a short-term issue where sometimes we take tokens offline, but I don't think 0x is offline. If you're not able to exchange then please send an email to support@abra.com with your wallet ID, and we'll take a look. Jeff asks, do we have plans for limit orders? So let me explain to the non-traders among us what a limit order is, because Jeff asked an excellent question. So let's say the price of Bitcoin is falling, and I don't want to watch the screen all day, because again, it's also not healthy, but I want to wait for a pullback to a specific price to buy. So let's say that right now the price of Bitcoin is at 37, right? And you know, I want to wait until it gets to 36,000 to buy. I just made that up, but that's what we would call a limit order. Because I would say to Abra, buy when the price of Bitcoin hits 36,000, so that, or fill my order at the price of 36,000 and no higher. That's a limit order. Yes, we will eventually support limit orders, Jeff. It's something that we've been working on. And there's a few issues with us doing that, but we will do it. Again, we pride ourselves on Abra on ease of use. Abra does not run an order book. We're not an exchange in that sense. It's more like a simple brokerage. But in that regard, we do want to enable limit buys, and it will happen this year. I just don't have an exact date for you yet. Reem asks about live customer service. This is something that we very much want to do. We're staffing up our team as fast as we can. Building up the expertise for Abra is non-trivial. Look, I mean, the app, let's take a quick look, right? We support Abra Trade, which has lots of features, has very country-specific features around depositing money. Abra Earn to earn interest has lots of nuances to it around withdrawing. We enable daily withdrawals, which a lot of our competitors don't do. So there's things to learn there. Abra Borrow. So our team has to learn in detail all of this stuff. So we're ramping up as fast as we can. Probably going to add hundreds of people in the next couple of years, if not sooner. But we have to train those people, and then eventually I want to turn that on for live support. But we have to be able to deal with the asynchronous stream coming in via email first, and then turn on live support. But I agree with you. I think that the quality of our team and the fact that we have such a great support function. I know some of you have had delays lately, which is not a function of the team. It's a function of the number of people coming at us. The team is fantastic. They're doing a fantastic job, and they love Abra. They love you guys, and they take it personally when people have issues and they want to help. So don't be afraid to send a support message, but do understand that, when we say it could take a day, we mean it right now. It could take a day. Okay. So how come ACH deposit times vary? That's a great question. So first, a couple of things about ACH. As a reminder, ACH is a US specific term. It refers to depositing money in small amounts from your bank in the US. So you see here on my screen, I have both ACH and wire. What's the difference between an ACH and a wire? The difference is that with ACH, Abra, you're giving Abra permission to pull the funds out of your bank account, right? So we're actually reaching in and pulling the funds out because you log into your bank account from Abra. You're not actually giving Abra your bank details ever, ever. So let me show you what I mean by that. So if I add a new bank account, what I'm actually doing is I'm using a third-party service called Plaid. It's Plaid. It's the same service Venmo uses and other providers to connect your bank account to Abra, so that effectively they can reach in once you give permission and add the funds to your Abra wallet. So you choose which bank you want, you log in. Okay, it's super slick, really easy. We've had actually probably hundreds of thousands of people do it at this point. It's great. All right. The difference with a bank wire is, I'm going to delete this. So the difference with a bank wire is you're going to your bank and you're pushing the money to Abra based upon the details we give you here. Now, why would you want to do that? Because in larger amounts, it's much safer. Why is it safer? Because we do get a fair amount of people who go to the dark web and try to cheat with ACH. And that's why we have to limit the amounts that you can do via ACH to $10,000 a day. And via bank wire, there's unlimited amounts. You can literally wire millions to Abra. Okay, so back to the question about the timing for ACH. ACH deposits are only processed by the banks Monday to Friday, right? And usually it depends upon when the previous day you initiated the ACH. So for example, if you initiate the ACH on Monday at 9 p.m., it will get processed probably on Tuesday and might not hit your account until Wednesday, right? So in other words, if you initiate an ACH at like 9 p.m. on Friday, it might not hit your wallet until Tuesday because we might not process it until Monday morning. I hope that makes sense. Now, in some cases, if we know you, you may be seeing that, meaning we know you, meaning you've been using Abra for a while, you may actually see the funds hit your wallet immediately or almost immediately within a couple of minutes or a couple of hours. And that's because Abra is advancing the ACH to you even before your bank finishes the transaction. Okay, we don't guarantee that, but some of you have been seeing that. Okay, and we are trying to do more of that in the future. All right, so hopefully that answered your question. Let's see. Does Abra hire part time? I think maybe our support team has some, but not much part time hiring. We're doing a lot of hiring in general, right? Oh yes, I have not talked about how stocks affect crypto. Let me spend a minute on this and then wrap up. And if you have a couple more questions, I'd be happy to go over a little bit. But let me talk about this stock issue. While I'm doing that, let me bring up some of the S&P charts here in the background, and you can see what I'm talking about. So, look, I would say last March when we had the pullback, stocks were leading the way, right? We basically saw one of the biggest downturns in the stock market we had seen in years, if not decades, I think, at that point. And clearly, crypto was following the stocks down. Okay. What happened throughout the year is that the two diverged, right? And there's statistical analysis to prove that this is true, meaning the correlation between the movement of prices in stocks and the improvement in prices in crypto were actually not very correlated anymore, probably as of like certainly late summer last year. And that was probably very true up until last week. Now, in the last few days, last couple of weeks, tech stocks in particular have pulled back, right? So you've probably seen that Tesla, for example. Now, Tesla is unique. I kind of, and this is independent of Elon's comments about Bitcoin, in my opinion. I think it has more to do with the fact that Tesla is one of these exponentially growing companies, which makes the stock price very volatile, right? So they look very similar. A lot of you have told me that you actually trade Tesla almost like you trade Bitcoin as well, which I find very interesting. But in the last few weeks, we've had a little bit of a sideways. We had this. Let me bring up the chart here. You can see what I'm talking about. So let me cut to the chase and say I don't think that Bitcoin is correlated to stocks right now, right? This is the price of the NASDAQ 100, I believe. Yeah, the NASDAQ 100, which is an ETF that tracks the top 100, I believe, stocks trading on NASDAQ. Very tech focused, right? This is almost like a way to track the technology sector from a stock market perspective. And so you can see that we've had two major pullbacks from up here down almost from like mid 300s to below 300s, right? So that's like almost a 20% drop off those highs. And then here it had, another probably 10% drop, which for the stock market is a pretty big drop. It's not supposed to be nearly as volatile as Bitcoin. And we're talking about a 10% drop from April 26th to May 19th, right? So less than a month. That's a pretty big deal for the stock market. Look, I don't think that these two markets are going to show significant correlation in the short term. I'm sorry, in the long term. They may show a little bit of correlation in the short term, especially if there's some macro news. Things like war in the Middle East don't help from a macro perspective. There's some macro questions about the strength of the dollar. The stronger the dollar, that may hurt stocks and it may hurt Bitcoin in the short term. In the long term, I don't think it's going to matter. Okay, I think the dollar is going to continue to get weaker through incremental printing, and it's going to basically hurt. The dollar printing is basically going to help all of these risk-on assets, Bitcoin, commodities, stocks, real estate in particular. I think is now becoming healthy. What I always said is that the 60-40 allocation was where we were in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. The 60-40 allocation refers to holding 60% of your assets in stocks and 40% in bonds if you're, under the age of 50. And I think that allocation is dead for me personally, right? I think you hold some Bitcoin, you hold a little bit of stocks, you hold a little bit of real estate, and that's about it. Right. And then you have some cash. You should have some of your income in cash. This is, again, I'm not an investment advisor. This is what I do. Should I need it? Or if I see an investment opportunity like Bitcoin price falling. And that's how I do it. So that's my answer to the question about stocks. Let me just go back to see if there's any last good questions here. Can we guarantee safety of our money in Abra in the next 5 to 10 years? Well, it depends what you mean, because Christian, it depends what you mean with your question. Because if you're holding Bitcoin, obviously I can't guarantee the price of Bitcoin versus the dollar. Right now, I think it's going to go up. It's been going up 200% a year for 10 years. Bitcoin has shown itself an appreciating asset, and the dollar has shown itself a depreciating asset. If you're referring to Abra Earn, right, we don't guarantee that you won't lose principal in those investments, but I consider them very safe. We've never lost a penny of consumer funds, unlike some of our competitors who have. I have all of my liquid assets in it, as does my management team. We have blogs, articles on Abra.com. And I'm overdue for going over it again, which I'll do next week in detail. But again, we all use this product to store 100% of our crypto, and I use it personally for 100% of my cash, so which I store as stable coins and earn 10.5% interest. Um, you know, so again, I'm very comfortable with that, but it's not a guaranteed thing. It's an investment, right? So we work with our partner Prime Trust, where you're making the deposits. They effectively lend us the funds so that we can invest them on your behalf. That's what you're doing when you use Abra Earn. So I hope that makes sense. I'd be happy to. Again, I've done that in the past. I've also got some blog articles on Abra.com that you can look at. And I did have a question here about XRP. I'll look and take a look at what's going on. I have not looked at XRP in weeks. I've been looking a lot at Cardano, which has been on fire lately. A little bit at Digibyte. I've been looking at Doge because so many of you keep asking me about Doge, and I find it fascinating. I think Doge is like a case study in the power of large networks to influence markets, right? And it's just like I said, absolutely fascinating. Let me show what's happening with Doge here. I think you can see you can see my phone. So the past year, let me just go to the past month for Doge. So the chart doesn't really do it justice, because we went from 20 cents to 70 cents, back down to 30, 35, 36 cents. But if we don't have a 90-day chart, but if we did, it would basically just show an astounding set of movements. Now, again, I have no problem with people buying and selling Doge. If I did, maybe we wouldn't have it in Abra. But what I do have a problem with is people saying, "Oh, I just use Doge as my savings mechanism." I would beg you not to do that, right? To me, it's fun to watch how it works. I love studying networks. I love studying how Wall Street Bets and Reddit and other networks influence what's happening with Doge. And unlike some of the Bitcoin maximalists, I don't have a problem with people investing in altcoins. I think they have their place, and I think we're going to see a big run up. And I think this whole token economy is absolutely fascinating and is a big representative of where we're going from a financial perspective as a society. I'm just imploring you to be smart. Yes, Doge to the moon, Alan. Fine, great, but as it's going to the moon, please don't put your life savings in it. Okay, John, if you have an issue with Synapse adding your bank account, again, support Synapse is our old way of connecting your bank account. They can migrate you to use the new way, and that should address your issue. Just send them your wallet ID with that error, and they should be able to help you get fixed. And Alan, yes, you and I both agree that you should not use Doge as savings. Okay. So we'll end on Doge, which I never thought I would be doing on Money Talks, but look, so I'm back. I'm healthy again. I actually was KO via my second Pfizer shot. It actually took me out. I was out for a week. I had some eye surgery. I'm finally, the swelling's gone, so I'm presentable. But we're going to try to do this again, get back to a weekly cadence. Thank you so much for the input on getting back to doing this. We're already 5 minutes over, so I'm going to stop here and just really express my gratitude. We've had so many new users, like tens and tens of thousands of new users the past few days, even. So very grateful. Keep it coming. We've got lots of new features coming. We've got a lot of exciting plans. We're doing things with the websites, which I haven't talked about. I'll show you next week. There's some really cool things we're doing there about enabling purchases of Bitcoin in other countries. So I'm going to write that down. Actually, we're going to get back to talking about the website next week in addition to the app. And you'll find me on Twitter, Bill Barhydt, Abra Global on Twitter. Press subscribe on the feed here. And thanks again. Fantastic questions as always. Really appreciate it. And we will see you next week, hopefully, on Money Talks. Have a great weekend and take care, everyone.